Hey, welcome back to JG3 Reviews. My name is James, and here we explore the world of fountain pens, ink, paper, and related things. And today I've got a special video for you. I mentioned in my video of the Scrivener, and the Picasso that what I wanted to do was to come back with a layer video and talk about various pen brands we find online. For example, those two pens are an awful lot alike. They probably both come from the same OEM maker in China with some different details based on how the company that is selling the pen to you wants that pen to be configured and specified and all of that good stuff. So that's normal business, actually. You see a lot of that. Cross, for example, basically does that in China these days themselves. So that's not necessarily a negative, but it is something you ought to be aware of, because while those two pens have enough, I think, enough difference between the two that one is maybe more valuable than the other. I know I like it better than I like the Picasso, but that's a personal choice and decision. But you should know that, because if you want the cheaper pen, well, there is a cheaper pen to be had that is very, very similar in style and design. But there are other questions I want to address in this video too. Several months ago, I was asked by a viewer named Sandy about how do you navigate the different brands and places like eBay, Amazon, I would add AliExpress, and how those pens are marketed there. You may see the same pen offered at really pretty wide margin of prices. You see some pens that you may not be familiar with, and are those any good or not? You step into AliExpress, for example, and there is a whole wide world of Chinese fountain pens that can be kind of daunting to explore. I mean, you really don't know sometimes what it is you're ordering until it arrives in your mailbox. And of course, not everybody wants to take that chance. And actually, you know, this channel, part of what I consider my job to be, is to take that chance for you. But even then, sometimes I honestly don't take the chance. There's a lot I've said no to on AliExpress and eBay. But how do you navigate that? How do you find those diamonds in the rough? Because there really are some. And are there some pointers, she asked, that I could give? And that's what I'm going to do in this video. So the first question that I want to answer is this one. She had asked about why it is that sometimes on eBay you will see a pen, it'll over to the side, it'll have a certain price, you go to add that pen to your cart, and suddenly you have a much higher priced pen than you thought you were getting. Now, I think I know what she's talking about, because I've seen this a lot of times. I've been on eBay since the 90s. Some of you weren't even born when I got on eBay the first time. Anyway, sometimes when you go to the site, you will see something, for example, and it looks this like Mahjong, maybe a deal too good to be true, because what you have here is a pen that says it is $7.24 and then topping out at $31.66. And for all that you see right here on this screen, it looks like you ought to have just found the best Mahjong A1 price you can find, $7.24. Now, I'm not sure that this is what she was asking about, but I suspect that this is what a lot of you are seeing. And so you click on this pen, and when you do, it comes up and it says, sure enough, US dollars 724. And you think, man, that is the best deal I'm going to find on this pen. However, when you go and start to choose your color and add the pen to the cart, something happens. And let's say you come over here, pen with the clip, and now the price is $29.59. Well, what happened to my $7 pen? Well, this is kind of, it's not a dirty trick on eBay, but it is a dirty trick on eBay. It's one of those things where whatever item in this list has the lowest price, that's the price that they have said is going to show up on the ad. So what they've done is they've created an eBay listing where all of the title and everything is for the expensive item from the drop-down menu, but the actual price and ad are really for the cheapest thing on this menu. And what is the cheapest thing on this menu? It is Spare Accessories A. And you click on that and you have your $7.24 price back. But it's for a package with just an eyedropper and 5 empty reusable cartridges, no pen. So it's kind of a bait and switch. I mean, technically eBay sellers are going to tell you, oh no, it's not a bait and a switch, it's just how, you know, the listings work and yada yada yada. But it's kind of a bait and switch. And you will find that many sellers don't use this particular method of selling their items, and I tend to choose from sellers that don't, because I don't like to reward bad behavior, so I go find the pen at a competitive price from one. Now, the other question that was asked was, how come you see pens at such disparaging prices? You know, one fountain pen, for example, this Hongdian Black Forest, an excellent pen, one that is, like, I think it says bestseller on eBay in fountain pens. It's $16.99. And then you see another pen, for example, the Scrivener that I reviewed the other day, and it is about double that price. Well, why is that? How do you know, is one pen as good as the other? You might think one of two ways. Either that the Scrivener or Scrivener is overpriced, or you think that the Black Forest is too cheap and too good to be true. And in truth, neither of those things is necessarily so. The Scrivener is pretty competitively priced with other pens of its build quality and with a Schmidt nib and a Schmidt converter and things like that. So it's kind of it's a fair price for its market. And then you have the Black Forest, which is honestly quite a bargain, but pretty competitive among other Chinese OEM pens, which would be like Jinhao, and it is quite competitive. It's just that fountain pens have a very wide margin of price. The factors that go into that are country of origin. Anything from the U.S. or Europe that's actually made in the U.S. or Europe is going to be more expensive. Anything from Japan is going to be more expensive. That goes into trade practices and pay to their people and all of those kind of things. There's a lot of different variables and factors. It also can go into shipping. China ships their own stuff to the U.S. dirt cheap, far cheaper than you could send it back. And so, you know, they undercut us that way as well. But you also have some other things. This is a mass-produced pen. It's a metal pen with a steel nib. The parts themselves are not as expensive as some other pens that you might find at a different price range. So there's just different things. For example, that Scrivener pen, also assembled in China, does have a German nib and a German converter, and that's going to drive the price up a bit. So there are all those variables. To know whether or not a price is fair, what I do is I shop around a lot, not just on the same site, but I compare all the time. Amazon, I go to some sellers I have saved on Etsy that I will check as well. I will go to AliExpress, and of course I go to eBay. And of course, if it's from a Western company, I shop regular pen stores first. I go to these sites for things that I cannot get from places like Gold Spot or Goulet or Atlas or, you know, Pen Chalet. I'm sorry, I'm not listening to everybody, but, you know, just companies. I go to companies that are here, Applebone, things like that, and I shop them first always, and usually will buy my Western pens, my Japanese pens from those sellers. But for a lot of makers, that's actually not an option. You have to buy online. So I check around and I compare. And yeah, it's a process and there's some time involved in that, but that's okay. You know, if you're looking for a bargain or if you just want to make sure that you're getting a fair deal on a pen you're not that familiar with, shop around. Also, go to places like the Fountain Pen Network. There's a great fountain pen subreddit, Facebook groups, things like that, and look at what people are saying about those brands. Even if you can't find the pen that you're looking at least go and research what actual buyers and users are saying about those brands. Find 2 or 3, 4 different video reviewers that you trust and see what they're saying. Get multiple reviews. That's what I do. I certainly don't just shop on my own opinion. I go and look at what other people are saying in their reviews too when I'm going to buy into a brand that I've never heard of or never had experience from. And then be willing every now and then to take a chance, because sometimes you're going to find out that, hey, this company actually makes great pens. Never heard of them before, but they're awesome. Examples for myself where that has happened would be one, this Hongdian. This I bought early in my channel's history. I'd already had fountain pens for a while, but new to Chinese pens at the time. Jinhao for me was a total revelation. Had never heard of them, was really nervous about clicking buy that first time, but I bought it because Goulet had recommended it. And so I bought my first Jinhao from Goulet pens. It was a 159. I loved that pen, and of course I still have it, still use it from time to time, although kind of transferred over to the X159, which I like a little bit better. But Jinhao was unknown to me. Wingsung, I only found out about through digging through sites for reviews about Jinhao. Now I'm a big Wingsung fan too. Hongdian, same thing. And Mahjong, which was Moon Man at the time. I had never heard of them. I was not going to spend that money on a pen from AliExpress that I had never heard of. Then I saw a review sometime of some different Moon Man pen and thought, okay. And then I started reading some of those subreddits and things like that about them and kept hearing more and more positive things about Mahjong. And so I decided to bite the bullet and bought one. And again, still Moon Man at the time. Fantastic. And I've had a bunch of Moon Man and Mahjong pens, and they're good. I will give you this warning. If you go to, say, AliExpress or eBay, and you are wanting one of their eyedropper pens, it seems to be the eyedroppers in particular, C1s, 3s, M's, this's, and that's. Those eyedropper pens, if the price looks too good to be true, if it is just dirt cheap, if it's $3 or $4 compared to, say, 10 or 12 or 15 for the Moon Man Mahjong, that may be a knockoff. Believe it or not, Mahjong, who is guilty of knocking off themselves from time to time, does have people knocking off their pens. So if the price looks too good to be true, well, you know, it probably is. So be careful. That is out there. There are knockoffs even of cheap pens. I once got a Wingsung that was very similar to a Pilot, but turned out to be an actual knockoff of the Wingsung. When I contacted the seller and said, hey, you sent me a knockoff of this Wingsung, it was a 3003, I said, you sent me a knockoff of that pen, and it's not what I ordered, and you know, what do I need to do? I'm looking for a refund, and I don't mind returning the pen. They said, well, I need you to destroy it with a hammer and send us the pictures. Well, that's an odd thing to do, but I kind of enjoyed doing it, and I still actually have all the broken parts, just as a reminder to always go back and read those listings carefully and examine those photos. In this case, there was nothing I could have detected until the pen arrived because they had pictures of the actual pen I ordered, and that's just not what they sent me. But I did get my refund. However, it made me very skeptical of a price that was too good to be true. Which brings me to the next part of her original questions. One thing that she asked about was she had ordered a pen, as I did, and when it arrived, it didn't look like the pen she had ordered, as happened to me. And that can happen from time to time. I mentioned that occurrence. It is, I believe, no, that's not true. I was going to say it was the only time it had happened. The other time was there have just been two. Now think about how many pens I've reviewed on the channel. I've only had two of these instances, but both times were of a Wingsung. I can't remember, to be honest, if these were both. One was an eBay seller. The one that made me hammer everything was an eBay seller. The other was an AliExpress seller, I believe. And that time they just sent me a knockoff of a Wingsung pen, and when it arrived, it was awful. It was one of those Wingsungs that's supposed to be like the Parker 51, which, you know, if it's a genuine Wingsung based off of that, it actually is a really good pen. But this particular one of the 6 series pens, was absolute junk. I mean, the clip looks like it was hammered out of tinfoil by an elephant with a grudge. I don't know who made this pen, but it was not Wingsung. It's absolute junk, trash, horrible. Didn't even put ink in it. Don't even want to touch the thing. I'm not sure, but what it might be made of nuclear waste. It was trash. That's going to happen. Here's what you do. You do what I did with that other pen. You demand a refund. I didn't on that first one. I think I paid $1 something for that pen, and I just wrote it off. But anymore, I don't do that. I would demand a refund, even if it was just for the $1 something, so that they know you're not getting away with sending me the wrong pen. I would do that politely in case they've sent the wrong one first. I would do that. I would say, first contact them and say, hey, you know, here's what I ordered. This pen and this pen don't look alike. I attached those 2 photos, the one that was from the marketing and the one that is what I actually got, and I make sure they can see what I'm seeing and say, hey, what do I need to do about this? And if they're a good seller, they're going to take care of you. If they're a mediocre seller, they're going to tell you to take a hammer to it and give you a refund. And if they're a bad seller, go immediately to where you bought that pen and leave a review saying so. If it's eBay, if it's AliExpress, or if it's Amazon, file a complaint. They have complaint departments for that, and make sure that you hold their feet to the fire. Never reward bad behavior, and make sure that you get your money back. Of course, I'm not having to tell a lot of you that. You do that already, but sometimes we kind of we're too nice for our own good, and we don't want to hold their feet to the fire, but we really should, because people are spending good hard-earned money, and it's harder to earn than it used to be for a lot of folks, so hold their feet to the fire. Another question that I got from somebody else was about brands like this. This is a Dryden pen sold on Amazon. You see these all the time, and what I can tell you is I don't know if they're any good or not. They have 8,071 reviews for this particular pen, and when I looked, 4.3% is the average. Most of those reviews then are 5-star reviews. Most under that were 4-star reviews, and very few 1 or 2-star reviews. Really have a great rating. These are pens that are made in China. They're going to be things similar to Jinhao pens. I've never bought one. I'm thinking about buying one for the purpose of seeing what I think for the channel, just to give you an idea, are these ratings justified? For example, with the Scrivener, I think they are justified. Is this one? I've never ordered one because actually the design is not my favorite just in looking at the pictures, and it really just kind of comes down to that. Plus, I really like Jinhao's, and I like their design better, and they're half the price, and so I usually go that direction instead. But you will find pens like this, and sometimes they get good reviews. For example, here I have the Wordsworth and Black. Now, same thing. I've never bought one of these pens, but I'm thinking about using the gift card I got because you guys follow those links to Amazon. I really appreciate that because it does provide pens for the channel. I thought about using the one I got this month for these 2 pens so that I can share them with you. Tell me if that's what you think I ought to do in the comments below. But I can tell you this. This one has 8,250 reviews. I would always go through and check and make sure that they actually seem to know what they're talking about. I would go down and see especially the ones that have pictures so that I know they actually got the pen. And I would look for verified buyers, although that can be cheated by Amazon sellers, so watch out for that. And I would also go again to those subreddits, Facebook groups, Fountain Pen Network, and things like that, and see what people are saying about Wordsworth and Black pens. And as far as the price goes, well, that's going to be up to you whether or not you think that this is worth the money for it. But I may have to do that review and give you a heads up, tell you what I think about it, just, so that you get one more opinion, because everybody needs one more opinion, right? But I can tell you this. I have some friends that have these pens, some of them subscribers to this channel, and they like them, they love them, and they think that they are great pens, and they really enjoy writing with them, which is, by the way, the point. In the end, the point will not be, did all those people on Reddit like that pen too? The question will be, is it a good pen? Does it write well? And do you enjoy it? Does it make you want to write more? Does it help you put thoughts and ideas to paper or write and draw and do more art? That's really the bottom line, right? And that only you really know. But that's what I would suggest. Go and get as many opinions as you need until you feel comfortable spending your money on that. Or if you see enough negativity, there are too many good pens to waste your time on well, everybody says it's bad, but what if I get a good one? Move on and get a good pen, because there are tons of great ones out there. All right, if this is helpful, I'm glad. If it's not, tell me why in the comments below. Maybe there's a question you thought I should have answered or a point I should have made that you would add if you were making this video, and I welcome those comments. So, like, share, subscribe, and God bless you.